They told me the triplet alphas were ruthless. They forgot to mention they smelled like expensive mistakes wrapped in Italian leather. The kind of mistakes that ruin your life and make you thank them for it. I wasn't supposed to be here. Sitting in this freezing conference room in downtown Boston, wearing a suit I couldn't afford, pretending I understood a single word of the legal jargon being fired across the table like bullets. My father sat beside me, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Defeated. Broken. Turns out, embezzling $3 million from the wrong people has that effect. The wrong people in question? The Vitale family. Boston's most powerful mafia dynasty, run by three alpha brothers who'd built an empire on blood, money, and a reputation that made grown men cross themselves before saying their names out loud. And now, thanks to my father's gambling addiction and spectacularly poor financial decisions, I was about to meet them. Mr. Hayes will arrive shortly, the lawyer said. His name was something forgettable. Gregory? Gerald? Honestly, I'd stopped caring about names the moment I realized my entire future was about to be signed away on a stack of papers thicker than my college diploma. My father wouldn't look at me. Coward. Dad, I whispered, leaning closer. We don't have to do this. We could run. Leave the city, change our names. I've seen it work in movies. Ethan. His voice cracked on my name. Please. Just let me handle this. Handle this? The man couldn't handle a grocery list without losing half the items. And now he thought he could negotiate with the Mafia? I slumped back in my chair, crossing my arms. The room smelled like leather, old money, and something else. Something sharp and commanding that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Alpha pheromones. Strong ones. My Omega instincts kicked in immediately, a low hum of awareness spreading through my chest. I hated that feeling. Hated how my biology betrayed me every single time an alpha entered a room, like my body had its own agenda that didn't consult my brain first. The door opened. I didn't look up. Didn't want to give them the satisfaction. But I felt them. 3 of them. 3 distinct waves of presence that crashed into the room like a storm rolling in from the Atlantic. Cold, controlled, overwhelming. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Gentlemen, the voice was smooth, cultured, and laced with the kind of authority that didn't need to be loud. Thank you for waiting. I still didn't look up. Out of spite, mostly, and maybe a little bit of self-preservation. Because if I looked at them, if I acknowledged what was happening, it became real. Mr. Hayes, the lawyer said, standing quickly. Too quickly, like a dog hearing its owner's whistle. We've prepared the documents as requested. Everything is in order. Good. Footsteps. Expensive shoes on polished marble. They moved around the table, taking seats directly across from us. I studied my hands, noticed a hangnail on my thumb. Riveting stuff. Ethan. My father's voice was barely a whisper. Look up. I'm good, thanks. A pause. Then from across the table a low chuckle. Deep. Amused. He's got fire, a different voice said. Rougher than the first. I like that. Fire gets people killed, Marco, the first voice replied. Calm. Clinical. Let's see if he's smart enough to control it. That did it. I lifted my head and met their eyes. Oh no. 3 of them. Identical down to the last devastating detail. Sharp jawlines that could cut glass. Dark hair styled with the kind of precision that screamed money and control. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Wearing suits that probably cost more than my car. But it was their eyes that stopped me cold. Gray. All 3 of them. But not the same gray. The one in the middle, clearly, the leader had eyes like winter steel. Cold. Calculating. The kind of gaze that stripped you down to your most pathetic insecurities and cataloged them for later use. The one on the left looked like he wanted to either fight me or devour me. Maybe both. His gray eyes sparked with something feral, dangerous, a predator barely leashed. The one on the right was quieter, watchful. His gray eyes held a strange softness that felt more unnerving than the other's intensity. Like he saw too much, understood too much. Ethan Hayes, the middle one said. Not a question. A statement. He already knew everything about me. Probably down to my coffee order and the embarrassing Spotify playlist I listened to at 2 a.m. That's me. I forced a smile. The one and only. Well, technically not, because there's probably a few hundred Ethan Hayes in Boston alone, but in this specific context, yeah. Me. Hi. I was rambling. I rambled when I was nervous. His expression didn't change. I'm Dante Vitale. These are my brothers. Marco. He gestured to the feral-looking one. And Luca. The quiet one. Charmed, I said flatly. Marco grinned. It wasn't comforting. Dante slid a folder across the table. Thick. Official-looking. The kind of folder that ruins lives. Your father owes us $3 million, Dante said. Plus interest. Current total, 4.2 million. I felt the blood drain from my face. 4.2 million? My father made a choked sound beside me. We don't have that, I said. Obviously, if we had that kind of money, we wouldn't be sitting here making deals with the devil. Devils, plural. We're aware, Dante replied. His voice was so calm it was terrifying. Like he was discussing the weather, not my father's imminent murder. Which is why we're offering an alternative arrangement. Here it comes. You, Dante said, his gray eyes locking onto mine with surgical precision, will marry us. Silence. I blinked. Once. Twice. I'm sorry, what? A marriage contract? Luca clarified, his quiet voice somehow cutting through my shock. Binding. Legal. You become ours. Your father's debt is erased. I stared at them. All three of them. Then I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The sheer absurdity of the situation hit me like a freight train, and my brain short-circuited straight into hysterical laughter. You're joking, I managed between gasps. This is a joke, right? Some kind of Mafia hazing ritual? Do I get a prize if I don't pass out? Dante's expression remained carved from ice. This is not a joke. Marriage, I repeated, wiping my eyes. To all three of you. Because that's totally legal and not at all insane. It's legal enough, Marco said, leaning back in his chair with a smirk that made my stomach flip in a way I absolutely refused to analyze. We have very good lawyers. This is purely political, Dante continued, as if he was explaining a simple business transaction. A merger of assets. You will live in our home, attend events as our spouse, represent the Vitale name. In exchange, your father walks away alive and debt-free. How generous, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. And what happens if I say no? The temperature in the room dropped another 10 degrees. Dante tilted his head slightly. Then your father's debt will be collected. With interest. I think you understand what that means. I looked at my father. He was pale, shaking, tears streaming down his face. He'd done this. Put me in this position. Sold me to save his own skin. And the worst part? I couldn't even hate him for it. He was pathetic, broken, a coward who'd rather sacrifice his son than face the consequences of his own actions. But he was still my father. I turned back to the triplets. Three identical faces, three sets of gray eyes watching me with varying degrees of interest and amusement. This marriage, I said slowly, testing the words on my tongue. It's just political? Like, you said, a business arrangement? Correct, Dante confirmed. So I'd be, what? A trophy husband? Arm candy? At your fancy Mafia parties? Essentially. And you wouldn't, I gestured vaguely. Expect anything else? Marco's grin widened. Define anything else. Marco, Luca said quietly. A warning. We expect cooperation, Dante said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Loyalty, discretion, nothing more, nothing more. Right. I looked at the contract, at my father, at the three alphas who held my entire future in their perfectly manicured hands. I had two choices. Agree and lose my freedom, or refuse and lose my father. Some choice. Fine, I said, the word tasting like ashes in my mouth. I'll do it, but I have conditions. Dante raised an eyebrow. You're not in a position to negotiate. Maybe not, I agreed. But I'm also not going to be your docile little Omega who sits quietly and looks pretty. If I'm doing this, we do it my way. Or I walk. And you can explain to your associates why you let $4 million slip through your fingers because you couldn't handle one sassy Omega with boundary issues. Silence. Then Marco laughed. A real laugh this time. Loud and genuine. Oh, I like him, he said, looking at his brothers. Can we keep him? Dante's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his gray eyes. Interest, maybe, or annoyance. Hard to tell. What are your conditions? He asked. I sat up straighter, channeling every ounce of false confidence I could muster. 1. Separate bedrooms. I'm not sharing space with any of you unless absolutely necessary. Agreed. 2. I've finished my degree. I've got 1 semester left at Boston University. I'm not dropping out. Agreed. 3. My cat comes with me. Non-negotiable. Luca's lips twitched. Almost a smile. Agreed. I was running out of conditions. Honestly, I'd expected more pushback. And 4, I added, making it up as I went. This marriage ends the second my father's debt is cleared. No extensions. No renegotiations. I do my time, play my part, and then I'm free. Dante studied me for a long moment, those winter steel eyes dissecting me piece by piece. No, he said finally. My heart sank. The marriage is permanent, Dante continued. Divorce is not an option. You agree to this arrangement. You commit fully. Those are our terms. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Ethan. His voice was soft. Dangerous. You have 60 seconds to decide. After that, the offer expires, and we proceed with alternative collection methods. I looked at my father one last time. He mouthed the words, I'm sorry. Too little. Too late. I turned back to Dante, lifted my chin, and said the words that would change my life forever. Where do I sign? Dante slid a pen across the table. Black. Expensive. Probably cost more than my rent. My hand shook as I reached for it. Wait. Marco leaned forward, his gray eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Before you sign, you should know what you're agreeing to. I think I got the basic idea, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Marry you 3, look pretty, don't embarrass the family name. Did I miss anything? The bond, Luca said quietly. I froze, pen hovering over the signature line. What bond? The 3 of them exchanged a look. Some kind of silent triplet communication that made my stomach twist with unease. When an omega marries an alpha, Dante began, his voice taking on that clinical tone again, there's always a possibility of a scent bond forming. With 3 alphas, that possibility increases significantly. Okay, I said slowly. And what does that mean exactly? It means, Marco said, that feral grin returning, that our sense will start to affect you, make you more receptive. Receptive. Right. That was one way to put it. And vice versa, Luca added, his quiet voice somehow cutting through my rising panic. Your scent will affect us as well. It's not one-sided. I looked down at the contract, at the signature line that would bind me to these 3 strangers for the rest of my life. My hand was still shaking. This is insane, I muttered. But I signed anyway. What choice did I have? The moment the pen left the paper, something changed. The air in the room shifted, thickened, like the pressure drop before a storm. And then I smelled it. Cedar. Dark and rich, with an edge of something smoky. That was Dante. Leather and gunpowder. Sharp. Dangerous. Marco. And something softer. Almost sweet. Like vanilla and old books. Luca. The 3 scents hit me all at once, overwhelming my senses, making my head spin. My omega instincts roared to life, flooding my system with a warmth that spread from my chest outward, pooling low in my stomach. Oh no, you feel it, Dante observed. Not a question. A statement of fact. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to ground myself. Feel what? Don't play stupid, Ethan. Marco's voice had dropped an octave, rough and low. Your scent just spiked. Sweet. Like honey and rain. I wanted to deny it. Wanted to tell them they were wrong, that I felt nothing, that this was all just a business transaction, and my biology could kindly go screw itself. But my body had other ideas. My skin felt too hot, too tight. Every breath I took was saturated with their combined scents, making it impossible to think straight. This is normal, Luca said, his calm voice a lifeline in the chaos. The bond recognizing its match. It will settle. When? I managed to grit out. Eventually. Great. Super helpful. Dante stood, buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. The ceremony is tomorrow. Noon. We've arranged everything. I blinked up at him. Tomorrow? As in less than 24 hours from now? Is that a problem? I don't know. Maybe. My voice climbed higher. Most people get more than a day's notice for their wedding. There's usually, planning involved. invitations, a cake, basic human decency. This isn't a traditional wedding, Dante said. It's a legal formality. The paperwork has already been filed. Tomorrow we make it official in front of the family. The family. Right. Because marrying into the Mafia meant I was about to meet a whole collection of people who could kill me and hide the body before dessert. Fantastic. Your belongings will be moved to our home tonight, Dante continued, like he was reading off a grocery list. A car will pick you up at 8 a.m. Wear something appropriate. Appropriate for what? I shot back. A funeral? Because that's what this feels like. Marco's grin widened. I'm starting to see why Dante picked you. Dante picked me? I turned to the middle triplet, who was watching me with that same unreadable expression. What does that mean? It means, Dante said softly, that your father's debt gave us an opportunity, but the choice of who would fulfill the contract was mine. I could have demanded your father's business, his property, his life. He took a step closer, and my breath caught. But I wanted you. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. Why? I whispered. Dante's gray eyes bored into mine. Because you're interesting. Interesting? I let out a shaky laugh. Right. Well, lucky me. You should go home, Luca said, his gentle voice breaking the tension. Pack anything you want to bring. Say goodbye to your life as you knew it. That last part was supposed to sound ominous, I think. But the way Luca said it, quiet and almost sad, made it sound like a condolence. I stood on shaking legs, my body still buzzing from the scent overload. My father hadn't moved from his chair, hadn't said a word since I'd signed the contract. I looked at him one last time. I hope it was worth it, I said quietly. He flinched, but he still didn't look at me. Coward. I turned to leave, desperate to get out of this room, away from the suffocating presence of three alphas, whose scents were currently trying to rewire my brain chemistry. Ethan. I stopped at the door, not turning around. What? Welcome to the family, Marco said. I could hear the smirk in his voice. I flipped him off without looking back and walked out. The hallway was blessedly cool, empty. I sagged against the wall, trying to catch my breath. What the hell had I just done? Married 3 Mafia alphas to save my deadbeat father. That's what. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my roommate, Bailey. Bailey. Where are you? We're supposed to study for finals, remember? Finals. Right. Because I was still a college student with a normal life and normal problems. Except now, I wasn't. Now I was Mrs. Vitale, or Mr. Vitale, or whatever the hell you called someone who just married 3 men at once. I started typing a response, then deleted it. What was I supposed to say? Sorry, can't study, just sold my soul to the Mafia. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Me. Something came up. Family emergency. I'll explain later. The lie tasted bitter, but it was easier than the truth. I pocketed my phone and headed for the elevator. My apartment was in Alston, a 30-minute train ride away. I had maybe 12 hours to pack up my entire life and prepare to move in with 3 strangers who smelled like sin and made my biology do backflips. The elevator doors opened. Luca was inside. Of course he was. Going down? He asked, his quiet voice tinged with something that might have been amusement. I hesitated, then stepped inside. The doors closed, trapping us in a small metal box together. His scent wrapped around me immediately. Vanilla and old books. It was the softest of the 3, but no less potent. My head swam. You don't have to be afraid, Luca said, not looking at me. His eyes were fixed on the floor, numbers counting down. I'm not afraid, I lied. Your scent says otherwise. Damn, Omega biology. Apparently, I couldn't even lie convincingly anymore. Fear smells different than this, Luca continued. His voice was so calm, so measured, like he was discussing the weather. What you're feeling right now is closer to panic, mixed with anger. And underneath all of that, he finally turned to look at me. Curiosity. You're wrong, I said, even though my heart was racing. Am I? The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened. Luca gestured for me to exit first. After you, husband. The word sent a shiver down my spine. I stepped out into the lobby, my legs unsteady. Luca followed, his presence a warm weight at my back. A car is waiting for you outside, he said. It will take you home. Pack what you need, someone will collect your things tonight. I can pack my own stuff, I said defensively. I know you can. Luca's lips curved into the smallest smile. But you won't have to. That's the point. He reached out, his fingers brushing against my wrist. The touch was feather-light, but it sent electricity racing up my arm. Try to get some sleep tonight, he said softly. Tomorrow is going to be overwhelming. More overwhelming than today? I pulled my wrist back, my skin tingling where he'd touched me. Much more. He turned and walked back toward the elevators, leaving me standing in the middle of the lobby, my head spinning and my body still humming with the aftershocks of being too close to an alpha whose scent made me want to do very stupid things. I pushed through the glass doors and out into the Boston afternoon. A black car was idling at the curb. The driver, an older man with kind eyes, opened the back door for me. Mr. Hayes, he said with a slight bow. Not Mr. Hayes. Not anymore. Mr. Vitale. I slid into the back seat, and the door closed behind me with a solid, final sound. Like a coffin lid. The car pulled away from the curb, and I watched the building disappear behind us. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Bailey. Bailey, are you okay? You're scaring me. I stared at the message, my throat tight. No, I wasn't okay. I just signed away my freedom to 3 alpha strangers who smelled like they could ruin my life and make me thank them for it. And the worst part? The absolute worst part? Some traitorous part of me was excited to see what happened next. I shoved that thought down so hard it should have reached the Earth's core. The car glided through Boston traffic with the kind of smooth efficiency that screamed money. I pressed my forehead against the cool window, watching the city blur past. Students rushing to class, people grabbing coffee, normal humans living normal lives. Meanwhile, I was on my way home to pack for my shotgun wedding to 3 identical Mafia alphas. My life had officially jumped the shark. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Bailey would have questions I couldn't answer, and I was already running on fumes trying to process what had just happened. The scent bond. That's what Luca had called it. And I could still feel it, humming beneath my skin like a live wire. Their scents had imprinted on my senses so completely that even now, alone in the back seat, I could almost taste cedar and leather and vanilla on my tongue. It was invasive, violating, and annoyingly compelling. I wanted to hate it, wanted to scrub my skin raw and burn the suit I was wearing just to get rid of the feeling. But my Omega biology had other plans, apparently. Plans that involved turning my brain into mush every time I thought about the way Dante's gray eyes had locked onto mine, or Marco's feral grin, or the gentle brush of Luca's fingers against my wrist. Stop it, I muttered to myself. Stop thinking about them. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Sir? Nothing, I said quickly, talking to myself. Normal person behavior, totally fine. He didn't respond, but I caught the slight quirk of his lips. Great. Even the hired help thought I was losing it. The car pulled up in front of my apartment building in Allston. It was a 3-story walk-up with peeling paint and a front door that only locked half the time. My place was on the 2nd floor, a cramped 1-bedroom I shared with Bailey, and approximately 700 books. I'll wait here, the driver said, which felt ominous for reasons I couldn't quite articulate. I climbed out, my legs still shaky, and headed inside. The stairs creaked under my feet. Familiar. Comforting. In less than 24 hours, I'd be living somewhere else. Somewhere expensive and cold and filled with alphas who looked at me like I was a puzzle they were determined to solve. I unlocked the apartment door and stepped inside. Bailey was on the couch, laptop balanced on his knees, highlighter clenched between his teeth. He looked up when I entered, his brown eyes narrowing. Where the hell have you been? He pulled the highlighter out of his mouth. And why do you look like you've seen a ghost? Long story. I dropped my keys on the counter, avoiding his gaze. We have time. Finals aren't for another 2 weeks. Bailey closed his laptop, giving me his full attention. Spill. How was I supposed to explain this? Hey, my dad's a criminal. I just agreed to marry 3 Mafia bosses, and my body is currently staging a biological coup. Want pizza? My dad got into some trouble, I said slowly, choosing my words carefully. Financial trouble. With some very serious people. Bailey's expression shifted from annoyed to concerned in half a second. How serious? The kind that ends with cement shoes if you don't pay up. Jesus, Ethan. He stood, running a hand through his messy blonde hair. How much does he owe? 4.2 million. Bailey's jaw dropped. Million? With an M? Yep. Where the hell is your dad supposed to get that kind of money? He's not. I moved past him toward my bedroom, needing to do something with my hands. I made a deal. The debt's cleared. What kind of deal? Bailey followed me, his voice rising. Ethan, what did you do? I started pulling clothes out of my dresser, shoving them into a duffel bag without really looking at what I was grabbing. I'm getting married. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, you're what? Married. Tomorrow. Noon. I grabbed my favorite hoodie, the gray one with the coffee stain on the sleeve. It's a business arrangement. Totally political. Nothing weird. Nothing weird? Bailey's voice cracked. You're marrying a stranger to pay off your dad's debt, and you think that's not weird? Technically, I'm marrying 3 strangers. More silence. I risked a glance at Bailey. He was staring at me like I just announced I was joining a cult. 3, he repeated slowly. Triplets, actually. Very efficient. 1 ceremony, 3 husbands. Really cuts down on wedding costs. This isn't funny, Ethan. I know. My hands stilled on the duffel bag. Trust me, I know. Bailey crossed the room and grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. You can't do this. We'll figure something else out. We'll get a loan, or I'll call my parents, or I don't know. We'll rob a bank. Anything but this. There is no other option. My voice came out quieter than I intended. It's done. I signed the contract. I'm legally bound to them. Then we'll break the contract, get a lawyer, fight it. Bailey. I met his eyes, saw the genuine fear there. These aren't the kind of people you fight. These are the kind of people who make problems disappear, permanently. His hands dropped from my shoulders. You're serious. Dead serious. Pun not intended. He sank onto my bed, looking shell-shocked. Who are they? These triplets? The Vitali family. All the color drained from Bailey's face. The Vitalis? Ethan, they're the Mafia, like actual organized crime. I wrote a paper on them last semester for criminal justice. I'm aware. They're dangerous. Ruthless. There are rumors about people who cross them, just vanishing. Also aware. And you're marrying them. Yep. Bailey dropped his head into his hands. I think I'm going to be sick. Join the club. I went back to packing, grabbing my laptop and charger. Look, it's not ideal, but it's temporary. Probably. Maybe. I'll figure out an exit strategy. An exit strategy from the Mafia, Bailey said flatly. Right. That's totally a thing people do and survive. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out, half expecting another message from Bailey's number by some weird glitch. It wasn't. Unknown number. This is Dante. The movers will arrive at 6 p.m. Be ready. I stared at the text. He'd gotten my number. Of course he had. Probably knew my social security number too. And my browser history. God, I hope not my browser history. Me. How did you get this number? The response was immediate. Dante. I'm your husband. I have access to everything now. A chill ran down my spine. Everything. Right. Because I just signed away my privacy along with my freedom. Me. We're not married yet. Dante. A technicality. Tomorrow makes it official. Tonight you're already ours. Ours. The possessiveness in that single word made my stomach flip in a way that was absolutely not arousal. Nope. Definitely just nausea. Or hunger. When was the last time I'd eaten? I shoved my phone back in my pocket. Who was that? Bailey asked. My future husband. Being creepy. Which one? The bossy one. I'm guessing they're all bossy. Fair point. I zipped up the duffel bag. Dante. He's the leader, cold, calculating. Probably sleeps in a suit. And the other 2? Marco's the violent one. Luca's the quiet one. Together they form a nightmare trifecta of alpha dominance and terrible life choices. Bailey looked at me for a long moment. You're using humor to deflect. It's called a coping mechanism, Bailey. All the cool kids are doing it. This isn't a joke. I know. The words came out sharper than I intended. I took a breath, steadying myself. I know it's not a joke. I know this is insane and dangerous and probably the worst decision I've ever made. But what else was I supposed to do? Let them kill my dad? Your dad made his own choices. He's still my dad. He sold you to the Mafia, Ethan. He doesn't deserve your loyalty. The words hit harder than they should have. Because Bailey was right. My father had thrown me to the wolves to save his own skin. He didn't deserve my sacrifice. But I'd made it anyway. It's done. I said quietly. I can't take it back. Bailey stood and pulled me into a hug. I stiffened, then slowly relaxed into it. He smelled like cheap cologne and the vanilla candle he always burned when he was stressed. Normal, safe, human. If they hurt you, Bailey said into my shoulder, I'm calling the FBI and the ATF and maybe the National Guard. I laughed despite everything. Pretty sure the National Guard can't help with domestic issues. Then I'll figure something else out. Maybe hire a rival mafia family. Fight fire with fire. Please don't start a mob war on my behalf. No promises. A knock at the door made us both jump. I pulled away from Bailey and checked my phone. 5:47 p.m. The movers were early. That was fast, I muttered. I opened the door, expecting to see some burly guys with boxes. Instead, Marco leaned against the doorframe, all dangerous smirk and predatory grace. He'd changed out of his suit into dark jeans and a black Henley that clung to his chest in ways that should be illegal. Evening, husband, he drawled. Behind me, I heard Bailey make a strangled noise. Marco's gray eyes flicked past me, landing on Bailey. His smirk sharpened. And who's this? My roommate, I said quickly. Bailey. He's just Bailey. Very platonic. Extremely heterosexual. Not relevant to anything. I'm bi, actually, Bailey said, which was not helpful. Marco's grin widened. Interesting. No, I said firmly, stepping between them. Not interesting. Bailey is off limits. He's Switzerland. Neutral territory. Relax, sweetheart. Marco's attention returned to me, and the weight of it made my breath catch. I'm here for you, not your cute roommate. Don't call me sweetheart. Would you prefer darling? Honey? My beautiful pain in the ass? I'd prefer you leave. Can't do that. He pushed off the doorframe and stepped inside without invitation, forcing me to back up. Dante sent me to supervise the packing. Make sure you don't try to run. I'm not going to run. That's what they all say. Marco's eyes scanned the apartment, taking in every detail. Nice place. Very. Student housing. It's called being poor. Not all of us grew up in Mafia mansions. We didn't grow up in a mansion. His voice held an edge I hadn't heard before. We built our empire from nothing. Don't assume you know our story. The sudden shift in his tone caught me off guard. For a second, the playful mask dropped, and I saw something darker underneath. Something sharp and wounded. Then the smirk was back, like it had never left. Where's your cat? Marco asked, changing the subject. Hiding, probably. She doesn't like strangers. Smart cat. As if summoned, a small gray tabby emerged from my bedroom. Tail high, green eyes suspicious. Marco crouched down immediately. Hey there, beautiful. The cat, traitor that she was, walked right up to him and headbutted his hand. Her name's Phoebe, I said, watching in disbelief as my antisocial cat purred like a motorboat under Marco's attention. And she hates everyone. She has good taste. Marco scratched behind her ears, his smile softening into something genuine. Cats always know who's worth their time. Against my will, something warm uncurled in my chest. Watching this dangerous alpha, all sharp edges and violence, being gentle with my cat did weird things to my emotional defenses. Stop it, I told my stupid heart. He's still the enemy. Another knock at the door. This time, it was actually the movers. The next hour was chaos. 3 guys in matching uniforms systematically packed up my entire life while Marco supervised, and Bailey hovered anxiously. I tried to help, but Marco kept steering me toward the couch, insisting I relax. You've had a long day, he said. Let them work. It's my stuff, and tomorrow it'll be in your new room. Our room. I froze. Our room? His grin was wicked. Did you think you'd get your own space? Cute. The contract said separate bedrooms. The contract said you'd have your own bedroom. It didn't say we wouldn't be in it. My brain short-circuited. That's not. You can't just. Can I? He leaned in close, his scent wrapping around me like smoke. We're going to be married, Ethan. Sharing a bed is kind of traditional. This isn't a traditional marriage. No, he agreed, his voice dropping lower. It's better. Better? I stepped back, putting space between us. His scent was doing that thing again, making my thoughts fuzzy. How is being trapped in a room with 3 alphas better than having my own space? Marco's eyes gleamed with something dangerous and amused. You'll find out. That's not ominous at all. I'm not trying to be comforting. He straightened, tracking one of the movers as the guy carried out a box labeled books. I'm trying to be honest. This arrangement works best when everyone knows exactly what they're getting into. And what am I getting into? Us. The word was simple. Final. All of us. My phone buzzed before I could form a coherent response. I pulled it out like a lifeline. Luca. Marco is being an ass. Ignore him. You'll have privacy when you need it. I blinked at the screen. How did he know? Me. Are you psychic? Or just watching me? Luca. Neither. I know my brother. He likes to push boundaries. Me. He said we're sharing a room. Luca. You have your own room. He'll be in it sometimes. So will Dante. So will I. But it's still yours. Somehow, that didn't make me feel better. Texting my brother? Marco peered over my shoulder. Let me guess. Luca's playing good cop? I shoved my phone in my pocket. Why do you do that? Do what? Act like this is all a game. Like my discomfort is entertaining. His smirk faded slightly. Because if I take it seriously, I'd have to acknowledge that we forced you into this. And that's not a fun thought. The honesty surprised me. For a second, I saw past the arrogant alpha facade to something more complicated underneath. Then Bailey cleared his throat loudly from across the room. So, my roommate said, his voice tight. This is happening. You're really leaving. The reality of it hit me again, sharp and cold. Tomorrow, this apartment wouldn't be mine anymore. Bailey wouldn't be my roommate. My life as a normal college student was over. Yeah, I said quietly. I'm really leaving. Bailey's jaw worked like he was trying not to cry. Will I see you again? Of course you will. I crossed to him, ignoring Marco's presence. I'm not disappearing, I'm just relocating to a creepy Mafia estate with 3 husbands, who may or may not let me have visitors. You can have visitors, Marco interjected. We're not monsters. Debatable, I muttered. The movers finished loading the last box. One of them approached Marco, clipboard in hand. That's everything, sir. We'll have it delivered to the Beacon Hill residence within the hour. Beacon Hill. Of course they lived in Beacon Hill, the fanciest, most expensive neighborhood in Boston, probably in a historic brownstone with original crown molding and a wine cellar that cost more than my college tuition. Good. Marco signed something on the clipboard, then turned to me. Time to go. Now? My heart jumped. I thought I had until tomorrow. You do. But Dante wants you settled in tonight, gives you time to adjust before the ceremony. How considerate of him. He has his moments. Marco's expression softened slightly. Come on. The car's waiting. I looked around my apartment one last time. At the sagging couch Bailey and I had found on the street corner. At the bookshelf, made of milk crates and plywood. At the window that overlooked the fire escape where I'd spent countless nights reading and avoiding my problems. This place wasn't much, but it was mine. Was. Past tense. Can I have a minute? I asked, my voice rougher than intended. With Bailey? Alone. Marco studied me for a long moment, then nodded. 1 minute. I'll be in the hall. He left, taking his overwhelming scent with him. The apartment felt bigger without him in it. Emptier. Bailey grabbed my hand. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. We could run. Right now. I have my car. We could be in New York in 4 hours. And then what? They'd find us. Find me. I squeezed his hand. This is the only way my dad survives. The only way I survive. I hate this. Me too. He pulled me into another hug, fierce and desperate. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll call if you need help. I promise. And if they hurt you? I know. National Guard, rival Mafia family. Strongly worded letter to the editor. He laughed wetly. I'm going to miss your stupid jokes. They're coping mechanisms, not jokes. There's a difference. We stood there for another moment, holding on to each other like we were drowning. Then I pulled away, grabbed Phoebe's carrier from beside the couch, and coaxed my cat inside with treats and lies about how everything would be fine. Come visit me, I said to Bailey. Once I figure out how this whole Mafia wife thing works. Mafia husband, he corrected. Right, husband. I keep forgetting I'm a guy marrying guys. The heteronormative propaganda really did a number on my brain. Marco knocked once on the doorframe. Time's up. I picked up Phoebe's carrier. She yowled in protest, which felt appropriate. We were both being dragged into a new life against our will. Bailey walked me to the door. Text me. Every day, even if it's just to tell me you're alive. Every day, I agreed. Marco led me down the stairs and out to the waiting car. A different one this time. Sleek. Black. Tinted windows that probably cost more than my entire security deposit. The driver opened the back door. I slid inside, Phoebe's carrier on my lap. Marco got in beside me. Too close. The scent of leather and gunpowder flooded my senses again, making my head swim. The car pulled away from the curb. I watched my apartment building shrink in the side mirror until it disappeared around a corner. Gone. You okay? Marco asked. Peachy. You're allowed to be upset, you know. This is a big change. Thanks for the permission to feel my own emotions. Super helpful. He snorted. There's that fire. Good. You're going to need it. What's that supposed to mean? Dante's world is cold, structured. He likes control. Order. Things in their proper place. Marco's gray eyes found mine. Your chaos. Warmth. Everything he doesn't know how to handle. So he's going to try to break me. Great. No. Marco's voice went serious. He's going to try to understand you, which might be worse. The car wound through Boston streets, moving from my shabby neighborhood into progressively fancier ones. The buildings got taller, nicer. The people on the sidewalks wore better coats. Phoebe meowed pitifully from her carrier. Hey, I murmured, sticking my fingers through the grate. She headbutted them. I know. I'm scared too. She'll like the new place, Marco said. Lots of windows. Dante hates clutter, so there's plenty of open space for her to destroy. Does Dante hate everything? Not everything. Marco's lips quirked. He doesn't hate you. He doesn't know me. He knows enough. He's been watching you for months. Ice slid down my spine. What? How do you think we knew about your father's debt? About you? Marco leaned back against the leather seat. Dante doesn't make decisions on impulse. When your dad came to us for money, Dante researched him. Found out about you. Started paying attention. That's stalking. That's due diligence. That's creepy. Welcome to the Mafia, sweetheart. We don't do anything halfway. The car turned onto a tree-lined street. Beacon Hill. Brick sidewalks. Gas lamps. Townhouses that probably had historical plaques and ghosts. We stopped in front of a 4-story brownstone that looked like it belonged in a period drama. Black iron fence. Stone steps. Windows that gleamed in the fading afternoon light. Home sweet home, Marco said. It looked like a museum. Or a mausoleum. It's very. I searched for a word that wasn't insulting. Beige. Marco laughed. Wait until you see the inside. Dante decorated. It's aggressively neutral. The driver opened my door. I climbed out, carrier in hand, and stared up at the building that was about to become my prison. The front door opened. Dante stood in the doorway, backlit by warm interior light. He'd changed too. Dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. It should have made him look more casual. Instead, it made him look like a predator pretending to be domesticated. Ethan. His voice carried down the steps. Welcome home. Home. Right. I climbed the steps, each one feeling like a countdown to something I wasn't ready for. Dante's eyes tracked my movement. When I reached the top, he stepped aside to let me pass. I crossed the threshold. The interior was exactly as Marco described. Aggressively neutral. Hardwood floors, white walls, minimalist furniture that looked expensive and uncomfortable. Art on the walls that was probably worth more than a car. It was beautiful. It was soulless. Your room is on the 3rd floor, Dante said, closing the door behind Marco. The sound of it clicking shut felt final. Permanent. Luca is waiting to show you. Where is Luca? Here. I turned. Luca descended a curved staircase, his quiet grace somehow more unnerving than his brother's obvious danger. He changed into soft gray sweats and a black t-shirt. Casual. Almost normal. Except for his eyes. Those watchful gray eyes that saw too much. Come on, Luca said gently. I'll give you the tour. I followed him up the stairs, Phoebe's carrier growing heavier with each step. The 2nd floor had a library, a sitting room. More art. The 3rd floor hallway was lined with doors. Luca stopped at one near the end. This is yours? He opened it. I stepped inside and froze. The room was huge. King-size bed with black silk sheets. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private garden. A desk. bookshelves already being filled with my boxes. An attached bathroom I could see through an open door. And sitting on the bed, looking completely at home, was Dante. "We need to talk," he said. Luca gave my shoulder a brief squeeze. "I'll get Phoebe set up with food and water. Take your time." Then he left, closing the door behind him, leaving me alone with Dante. In my new bedroom, that suddenly felt very small. "So," I said, setting down the carrier because my hands needed something to do, "is ambushing me in my room going to be a regular thing? Because I'd like to establish some boundaries." "Boundaries." Dante stood, his movements controlled and precise. "Interesting choice of words, considering you signed a contract that gives us full access to your life." "I signed a marriage contract, not an ownership agreement. In our world, they're the same thing." He moved closer. I held my ground, refusing to back up even though every instinct screamed at me to run. His scent wrapped around me. Cedar and smoke. My knees went weak. Stupid biology. "I want to make something clear," Dante said, his voice low. "This marriage is real, legally, financially, biologically." His eyes bored into mine. "The bond has already started. You felt it in the conference room. You're feeling it now." "I'm not feeling anything." "Liar." He reached out, his fingers brushing my jaw. The touch sent electricity through my entire body. "Your scent spikes every time one of us gets close. Sweet, warm, responsive." I jerked away from his touch. "Don't." "Why not?" "You're my husband." "Not until tomorrow." "Does the timing really matter?" He took another step forward. I took one back. My shoulders hit the wall. "You already belong to us, Ethan. The ceremony is just making it official." "I don't belong to anyone." "Keep telling yourself that." His hand pressed against the wall beside my head, caging me in. "But your body knows the truth. It's already trying to sync with ours, already responding to our sense, already preparing for the bond to complete." "Complete?" My voice came out breathless. "What does that mean?" Dante's smile was cold, sharp. "You'll find out tomorrow night." He pushed off the wall and walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. "Get some rest," he said without turning around. "Tomorrow is going to change everything." Then he left. I slid down the wall, my legs finally giving out. Phoebe meowed from her carrier. "Yeah," I whispered. "I'm screwed too." I sat there on the floor for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. My heart was still racing from Dante's proximity, from the way his scent had invaded every logical thought in my brain and replaced it with pure, primal want. This was bad. This was really, really bad. Phoebe meowed again, more insistently this time. Right. My cat, who was still trapped in her carrier and probably plotting my murder. I pushed myself up on shaky legs and opened the carrier door. Phoebe shot out like a gray bullet, immediately diving under the bed. "Totally fair reaction," I told her. "I'd hide too if I could." A soft knock at the door made me jump. "It's me." Luca's voice came through. "Can I come in?" Could he? This was supposedly my room, but I was starting to suspect privacy was a myth in this house. "Sure," I called, too tired to argue. The door opened. Luca entered carrying a tray with food, water bowls, and a small litter box. "For Phoebe," he explained, setting everything down in the corner. "Figured she'd need her own space to decompress." "That makes one of us." Luca's lips twitched. Almost a smile. Dante came on too strong. "You think?" "He doesn't know how to be gentle. It's not in his nature." Luca crouched down, peering under the bed. "Hey there, pretty girl. It's okay. No one's going to hurt you," Phoebe hissed. "She has excellent survival instincts," I observed. "So do you." Luca stood, brushing dust off his knees. "You're still here. Still fighting. That takes strength. Or stupidity." The line's pretty blurry at this point. He studied me with those two knowing gray eyes. "Are you hungry?" Was I? I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten. The day had been a blur of fear and contracts and life-altering decisions. "Maybe," I admitted. "Come on, I'll make you something." "You cook?" "Someone has to." Dante lives on coffee and spite, and Marco thinks cereal counts as a meal. I followed him back down the stairs, through the museum-perfect living room, and into a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. Marble countertops, professional-grade appliances, a wine fridge that probably cost more than my tuition. Luca moved through the space with easy familiarity, pulling ingredients from the fridge. Sit, he said, gesturing to one of the bar stools at the island. I sat, watching as he chopped vegetables with precise, practiced movements. It was oddly hypnotic, domestic, normal. So, I said, because silence made me nervous. This is weird, right? Not just for me. Which part? Luca didn't look up from the cutting board. The forced marriage, the scent bond, or the fact that you're handling this better than the last person Dante tried to bring into the family? I froze. There was someone else? Luca's knife stilled. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he set down the knife and met my eyes. 3 years ago, he said quietly, Dante tried to do this same arrangement, different circumstances. A beta from a rival family. Supposed to unite the territories. My stomach twisted. What happened? He lasted 2 weeks before he tried to run. Luca's voice was carefully neutral. Dante caught him at the airport, brought him back. The beta took a bottle of sleeping pills that night. The air left my lungs. He didn't die, Luca added quickly. We found him in time, got him to a hospital. But after that, Dante let him go, released him from the contract. Last I heard, he moved to California, changed his name. I swallowed hard. And Dante just let him go? Dante isn't a monster, Ethan. He's ruthless, controlling, but he's not cruel. Luca resumed chopping, his movements methodical. When he realized what the arrangement was doing to that beta, he ended it. Because keeping someone who wanted to die more than they wanted to stay wasn't worth it. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to make you understand. Luca scraped vegetables into a pan, the sizzle loud in the quiet kitchen. Dante chose you specifically because you're different. Stronger. You pushed back in that conference room. Made demands. The beta just folded. Agreed to everything. Never fought. So, I'm here because I have a big mouth and boundary issues? You're here because Dante saw someone who could survive this. Someone who wouldn't break. Luca added garlic to the pan. The smell was incredible. Whether you believe it or not, he's trying not to destroy you. He has a funny way of showing it. He spent 6 months researching you, learning your patterns, your friends, your favorite coffee shop, that little bookstore in Cambridge you visit every Saturday. My blood ran cold. That's stalking. That's Dante being terrified of making the same mistake twice. Luca plated the food, some kind of stir-fry that looked and smelled amazing. He slid it across the counter to me. Eat. You're going to need your strength. I picked up the fork, my hands still shaking slightly. For what? Tomorrow. Luca leaned against the counter, his gray eyes serious. The ceremony is just the beginning. After that comes the bonding night. There was that phrase again, the one that made my skin prickle with equal parts fear and something I refused to name. What exactly happens during a bonding night? The scent bond solidifies, becomes permanent. Luca's voice was gentle, clinical, like he was explaining a medical procedure. It requires physical contact, intimacy, the exchange of scent marks. My fork clattered against the plate. Sex. You're talking about sex. Not necessarily, but physical closeness, yes. Skin contact, the bond needs to anchor. With all three of you. Eventually, not all at once if that's what you're worried about. He paused. Unless you want it to be. I definitely don't want that. Okay. Luca's acceptance was immediate. Easy. Then we'll take it slow. Let you adjust. This doesn't have to be traumatic, Ethan. Could have fooled me. He smiled then, a real one that softened his entire face. Eat your food. I promise it's not poisoned. I took a bite. It was delicious, which felt unfair. How was I supposed to maintain my righteous anger when the quiet triplet kept being considerate and making me dinner? Why are you being nice to me? I asked around a mouthful of vegetables. Because you're scared and lonely. And you just gave up your entire life to save someone who didn't deserve the sacrifice. Luca's eyes held mine. Someone should be kind to you. The sincerity in his voice made my chest ache. Stop that, I muttered. Stop what? Being decent. It's making it really hard to hate you all equally. Good. Luca's smile turned slightly wicked. Hate is exhausting. Save your energy for the fights that matter. Footsteps on the stairs. Marco appeared in the doorway, his hair damp like he'd just showered. He'd changed into low-slung sweatpants and nothing else. Because apparently the universe wanted to test my self-control. You cooked without me? Marco's tone was accusatory, as he headed straight for the stove. You were showering. Ethan needed to eat. Luca didn't even look up. There's leftovers. Marco piled food onto a plate and dropped onto the stool next to mine. Too close. His bare shoulder brushed against my arm. The scent of leather and gunpowder hit me like a wall. I shifted away slightly. He noticed. Grinned. So, Marco said, stabbing a piece of chicken. Ready for tomorrow? Not even a little bit. Good. If you were ready, I'd be worried you were a psychopath, he chewed thoughtfully. Dante give you the scary speech yet? You mean the one where he implied I'm his property and tomorrow night is going to change my life forever? Yeah, got that one. Classic Dante. All intimidation, zero charm. Marco turned to face me fully. Want the truth? Do I have a choice? Not really. He set down his fork. Tomorrow's ceremony is a show, for the family. Proves the alliance is real. But the bonding night? That's for us. The four of us. No one else. That's supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be honest. His gray eyes were surprisingly serious. We're not going to hurt you, Ethan. We're not going to force you into anything you're not ready for. But the bond is going to demand certain things. Physical closeness. Scent exchange. Your body is going to crave it even if your mind is still fighting. So I'm going to betray myself. You're going to stop fighting your own biology. Marco's hand moved to my knee. The touch was light, grounding. And that's not betrayal. That's survival. I looked down at his hand. Should have pushed it away. Should have reinforced my boundaries. Instead, I let it stay. I don't want this, I whispered. I know. His voice was surprisingly gentle. But you will anyway. And that's okay. Luca's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. Dante needs us, he said to Marco. Trouble with the Rossi family. They're questioning the alliance. Marco's hand left my knee. How bad? Bad enough that he wants both of us there. Luca looked at me apologetically. Will you be okay alone for a few hours? I've been alone my whole life. I think I can manage. That came out more bitter than I intended. Marco stood, his playful demeanor shifting into something harder, more dangerous. Don't leave the house. The security system is active. If you need anything, there's a phone in your room. Direct line to Dante. What could possibly go wrong? I said flatly. They left through a side door, moving with the synchronized precision of people who'd worked together their whole lives. And I was alone. In a house that smelled like cedar and leather and vanilla. In a house that was slowly becoming saturated with the scent of three alphas who were currently trying to rewire my entire existence. I finished my food mechanically, rinsed the plate, and headed back upstairs. My room looked different now, less sterile. My books were on the shelves, my clothes in the closet, my favorite blanket on the bed. Someone had unpacked for me, made the space mine. It felt like a trap disguised as kindness. Phoebe had emerged from under the bed and was currently investigating her new litter box. What do you think? I asked her. Should we make a run for it? She ignored me, which felt like an answer. I collapsed onto the bed. The sheets were soft, expensive, and they smelled faintly like Dante. Of course they did. My phone buzzed. Bailey. Bailey. Are you alive? Me. Barely. Bailey. Did they lock you in a tower? Me. Worse. They gave me a nice room and made me dinner. I think they're trying to Stockholm Syndrome me. Bailey. Is it working? I stared at the message for a long time. Me. Ask me tomorrow. I set the phone on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow I'd put on whatever outfit they'd chosen for me. I'd stand in front of their family and promise my life to three men I barely knew. I'd smile and play the part and pretend this was all totally normal. And tomorrow night, the bond would complete. Whatever that meant. My body was already humming with anticipation, heat pooling low in my stomach at the thought of their hands on my skin, their scents surrounding me, their voices whispering things I shouldn't want to hear. I rolled over, burying my face in the pillow that smelled like cedar. I'm so screwed, I mumbled into the expensive fabric. From somewhere downstairs, I heard the front door open. Voices, low and urgent. Then footsteps on the stairs. Coming closer, they stopped outside my door. A pause, like someone was deciding whether to knock. Then the footsteps retreated. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight, I was still just Ethan Hayes, college student, cat dad, sarcastic disaster. Tomorrow, I'd be Ethan Vitale, and I had no idea who that person was going to be. Sleep wasn't happening. I'd been staring at the ceiling for what felt like hours, my mind spinning through every terrible scenario tomorrow could bring. The ceremony, the family, the bonding night. That last one kept circling back, making my skin flush hot and my stomach clench with something that definitely wasn't just fear. Phoebe had claimed the pillow next to mine, curled into a perfect gray circle. At least one of us was adjusting. A soft knock pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. I sat up. Yeah? The door opened just enough for Luca to slip inside. He was still in his sweats and t-shirt, his dark hair slightly mussed. He looked almost human, almost safe. "Can't sleep?" he asked quietly, closing the door behind him. What gave it away? The lights on or my general aura of panic? Both. He crossed to the window seat, settling onto the cushions like he belonged there. "Thought you might want company. Don't you have Mafia business to handle? Kneecaps to break? Protection money to collect? All done for the night." The Rossi family saw reason. His gray eyes found mine in the dim light. "Now I'm here to make sure you don't climb out the window and run." The thought hadn't crossed my mind. Liar? I pulled my knees to my chest, wrapping my arms around them. Okay, maybe it crossed my mind, but I'm not stupid enough to actually try it. Because you know we'd find you? Because my cat's here, and she hates traveling. Luca's lips curved into that almost smile. Practical. We sat in silence for a moment. It should have been awkward. Instead, it felt oddly comfortable, like sitting with an old friend instead of one of my soon-to-be husbands. "You want to know what happens tomorrow," Luca said. "Not a question. I want to know if I'm going to survive it." "You will." His certainty was absolute. "You're stronger than you think." Everyone keeps saying that. Like if you repeat it enough times, it'll become true. It's already true. You just haven't accepted it yet. Luca shifted, drawing one knee up. "Can I tell you something? Can I stop you?" "Probably not." His smile turned self-deprecating. "When Dante first told us about you, about this arrangement, Marco was thrilled. He likes chaos, likes the challenge of breaking down walls. And you?" I was terrified. The admission hung in the air between us, because I knew what it meant, what we'd be asking of you. And I knew that if we did this wrong, we'd destroy you the same way we almost destroyed the last person Dante brought home. My chest tightened. So why go through with it? Because Dante's brilliant and ruthless and capable of running an empire. Luca's voice dropped lower. But he's also alone. We all are. We've built this life on blood and power and control, and none of it means anything if we're just empty inside. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something raw in his eyes. Something that looked uncomfortably like longing. "You make us feel less empty," he said simply. "Even now, before the bond is complete. Your scent, your fire, your ridiculous sense of humor in the face of everything terrifying. You make this house feel less like a mausoleum." I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process the idea that these three dangerous, powerful alphas were looking to me for something as basic as companionship. "I'm not here to fix you," I finally managed. "I know. You're here because your father's a coward and we took advantage of that." Luca's honesty was brutal. "But maybe we can fix each other. Make this arrangement into something that doesn't feel like a prison for all of us." "That's optimistic. I prefer realistic." He stood, crossing to the bed. "Scoot over." I blinked. "What?" "Scoot over. I'm not leaving you alone to spiral all night." He waited, one eyebrow raised. "Unless you'd rather I go get Marco. He'll just talk your ear off about his gun collection." I scooted over. Luca settled onto the bed beside me, on top of the covers, keeping a careful distance between us. His scent wrapped around me immediately. Vanilla and old books. Warm, comforting. My Omega instincts purred. "Traitor. Tell me about your family," Luca said, staring up at the ceiling. "Your real family. Before all this. There's not much to tell. My mom died when I was 12. Cancer. After that, it was just me and my dad." I picked at the edge of the blanket. He tried, for a while, but the grief was too much. He started gambling, drinking, making progressively worse decisions. "And you took care of him?" "Someone had to." "That's not fair. You were a child." "Life isn't fair. You said that yourself." I glanced at him. "What about you? How do three identical triplets end up running the Boston Mafia? Luca's jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Our father built the Vitali Empire, he said finally. Brutal man. Believed in discipline through pain. He had specific ideas about how alphas should behave. Strong, ruthless, unfeeling. Sounds like a charmer. He was a monster. The words were flat, cold. He died when we were 19. Heart attack. Very sudden. Very convenient. The implication hung in the air. Did you kill him? Luca turned his head to look at me. What do you think? I thought about the quiet intensity in his eyes, the careful control in every movement, the way he moved through violence like it was a language he'd been speaking his whole life. I think he deserved whatever he got. Good answer. Luca returned his gaze to the ceiling. Dante took over after that. He was always the strongest of us, the smartest. Marco handles enforcement, I handle everything else. The things Dante doesn't want to dirty his hands with. Like babysitting reluctant husbands? Like making sure reluctant husbands feel safe enough to sleep. His hand moved, settling on top of mine. The touch was light. Careful. You're safe here, Ethan. I know you don't believe that yet, but you are. His thumb traced small circles on the back of my hand. The touch shouldn't have been soothing. Shouldn't have made my entire body relax like someone had released a pressure valve. But it did. This is weird, I murmured, my eyes getting heavy. Lying in bed with a guy I met 6 hours ago. Technically, you're marrying me in about 12 hours. This is downright traditional by comparison. I laughed despite everything. Your sense of normal is deeply concerning, so I've been told. My eyes drifted closed. The vanilla scent was doing something to my brain, making everything fuzzy and warm, making the fear recede just enough for exhaustion to creep in. Luca? If I fall asleep, you're not going to do anything creepy, right? Define creepy. You know what I mean. I'll be here when you wake up. That's all. No creepy behavior. Scout's honor. Were you actually a scout? God, no. Dante got us kicked out after Marco started a forest fire. Of course he did. I felt myself sliding towards sleep, my body finally giving up the fight. Luca's presence was a warm, steady anchor. His scent wrapped around me like a blanket. Just before I slipped under completely, I felt him shift closer. His lips brushed against my temple, feather-light. Sleep, Ethan, he whispered. I've got you. And despite every logical reason not to, I believed him. I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the scent of coffee. For a blissful moment, I forgot where I was, forgot about the contract and the wedding and the three alphas who now owned my life. Then I opened my eyes and saw Dante sitting in the chair beside my bed, watching me with those cold gray eyes. I jerked upright. Jesus Christ. Good morning to you too. He was already dressed, immaculate black suit, hair perfectly styled. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread titled, Terrifyingly Hot Mafia Bosses Who Probably Kill People Before Breakfast. Luca was gone. Of course he was. How long have you been sitting there? I demanded, pulling the blanket up like it could somehow protect me from his gaze. Long enough. Dante set down the coffee cup he'd been holding. Your wedding suit is in the closet. Someone will be here to help you dress in 1 hour. I can dress myself, thanks. I'm aware, but tradition requires certain preparations. I didn't like the way he said preparations. What kind of preparations? Scent cleansing. So you don't carry any foreign pheromones to the ceremony. His eyes tracked over me, clinical and assessing. You'll bathe in specific oils. Dress in clothes that have been treated with our family scent. By the time you walk down that aisle, you'll smell like a Vitali. My stomach twisted. That's barbaric. That's tradition. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. And tradition matters to the family. They need to see that you're ours, completely. I'm not a possession. No. Dante moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the morning light. You're my husband, which is far more permanent than a possession. Possessions can be sold. Husbands are forever. He reached out, his fingers tilting my chin up. His touch was cool, controlled, but his scent spiked, cedar and smoke flooding my senses. After today, there's no going back, he said softly. No escape clause, no loopholes. You will be bound to us in every way that matters. You already said that. I'm making sure you understand. His thumb brushed across my lower lip. The touch sent heat cascading through my body. Because tonight, when the bond completes, you're going to feel things you've never felt before. Want things you've convinced yourself you don't want. And I need to know you won't run from it. I signed your contract. I'm not running. Good. His hand dropped away, leaving my skin cold. 1 hour. Don't be late to your own wedding. He left, closing the door with a soft click. I sat there, my heart pounding, my lips still tingling from where he'd touched me. Phoebe jumped onto the bed, meowing indignantly at being ignored. Yeah, I told her. I know. This is bad. She headbutted my hand, demanding pets. I obliged, trying to calm my racing thoughts. In 1 hour, someone would come scrub me clean of my own scent and replace it with theirs. In a few hours after that, I'd be married. And tonight, everything would change. My phone buzzed. Bailey. Bailey. Today's the day. You okay? Me. Define okay. Bailey. Alive and not actively being murdered. Me. Then yes. Barely. Bailey. I love you. You know that, right? Whatever happens today, you're still my best friend. My throat tightened. Me. I love you too. If I don't text by midnight, call the National Guard. Bailey. Already have them on speed dial. I set the phone down and headed for the bathroom. Might as well see what kind of oils I was about to be bathed in. The bathroom was larger than my old bedroom. Marble everything. A tub that could fit 3 people, which, given my current situation, was probably intentional. On the counter sat a collection of glass bottles. I picked one up, uncorking it. The scent hit me immediately. Cedar, leather, vanilla. All 3 of them, blended into something that smelled expensive and possessive and undeniably alpha. This was what I'd smell like after today, not like myself, like them. The reality of it settled over me like a weight. I was really doing this. I was really marrying 3 Mafia alphas and letting them rewrite my entire biology. A knock at the bedroom door. Mr. Hayes? A woman's voice. I'm here to assist with your preparations. I looked at myself in the mirror. At Ethan Hayes, college student for the last time. Tomorrow, that person wouldn't exist anymore. Coming, I called. I set down the bottle and headed for the door. I opened the door. The woman standing there was older, maybe 60, with silver hair pulled into a severe bun and eyes that had definitely seen some things. She wore all black and carried a leather case that looked like it belonged to either a very expensive stylist or a very creative serial killer. Mr. Hayes, she said with a slight nod. I'm Elena. I'll be preparing you for the ceremony. Lucky me. I stepped aside to let her in. She moved through the room with brisk efficiency, setting her case on the desk and opening it to reveal an array of bottles, brushes, and tools I couldn't identify. The bath is drawn, she said, not looking at me. You'll soak for 30 minutes. I've added the family oils. They'll cleanse your natural scent and replace it with the Vitale signature. So I'm getting a factory reset. Great. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. Something like that. Strip and get in the tub. I'll prepare your clothes. You're very direct. I've been doing this for 20 years, Mr. Hayes. Modesty is a luxury we don't have time for. Fair enough. I headed into the bathroom and stopped short. The tub was full of water that shimmered with an opalescent sheen. It smelled like all 3 of them, concentrated into something so potent my knees actually went weak. This is insane, I muttered, stripping off my clothes. It's tradition, Elena called from the bedroom. I stepped into the water. It was hot, almost too hot. The oils clung to my skin immediately, slick and fragrant. I sank down until the water reached my chin, and the scent hit me like a physical force. Cedar, leather, vanilla. All of it mixing with the heat, creating a fog that filled my lungs and clouded my thoughts. My body responded immediately. Heat pooled low in my stomach. My skin flushed. Every nerve ending woke up and started screaming for something I didn't want to name. This is a chemical attack, I said to the empty bathroom. This should be illegal, but I didn't get out. I stayed in that water, letting their combined scents seep into my pores, rewriting my biology 1 molecule at a time. 30 minutes felt like an eternity, and no time at all. Elena knocked on the door. Time's up. Dry off and come out. I climbed out of the tub on shaking legs. My reflection in the mirror was flushed, my eyes dilated. I looked like I'd just run a marathon or done something significantly more enjoyable. I dried off with a towel that also smelled like them, because apparently there was no escape. When I walked back into the bedroom wearing only the towel, Elena had laid out my wedding outfit on the bed. It was beautiful. And I hated that I thought so. A charcoal gray suit, tailored to perfection. A white shirt, a silver tie. Everything in shades that would complement the triplet's own coloring. "Get dressed," Elena said. "I'll do your hair after." I pulled on the clothes, which fit like they'd been made for my exact measurements. They probably had been. Dante seemed like the type to have my measurements memorized down to the millimeter. The fabric felt different against my newly scented skin, softer, more aware. Elena approached with a comb and product. "Sit." I sat. She worked in silence, her hands quick and efficient. When she finished, my hair was styled into something that looked effortlessly elegant but probably took years of training to achieve. "There." She stepped back, assessing her work. "You look like a Vitali." I looked at myself in the full-length mirror. She was right. I looked expensive, polished. Like I belonged in their world. I looked nothing like myself. "Perfect," I said flatly. Elena packed up her case. "The ceremony begins in 1 hour. A car will take you to the estate. We're not getting married here? The Vitali estate is in Brookline. The family gathers there for all major events." She paused at the door. "A word of advice, Mr. Hayes?" "Sure. Why not? Don't fight the bond. It only hurts more if you resist." Then she left. I stood there, staring at my reflection, smelling like 3 men I barely knew, dressed to play a part in a ceremony that would seal my fate. My phone buzzed. "Dante. The car is waiting. Don't keep me waiting too." Demanding even via text. Impressive. I grabbed my phone and headed downstairs. The house was empty. Too quiet. My footsteps echoed on the hardwood floors. The black car idled at the curb, same driver from yesterday. He opened the door without a word. I slid into the back seat, and we pulled away from Beacon Hill. The drive to Brookline took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of watching the city give way to tree-lined streets and massive estates hidden behind iron gates. We turned into a driveway that seemed to go on forever, finally stopping in front of a house that made the Beacon Hill brownstone look like a cottage. The Vitali estate was a sprawling stone mansion that probably had a name and a tragic history. Guards in dark suits flanked the entrance. This was real. This was happening. The driver opened my door. I stepped out into bright October sunlight and followed a silent guard through the front entrance. The interior was all dark wood and old money. Oil paintings of stern-looking men lined the walls. Probably dead Vitalas, judging by the aggressive jaw lines. We stopped in front of a set of double doors. "Wait here," the guard said, then disappeared. I stood there, my heart hammering, trying to remember how to breathe normally. The doors opened. Luca stood there in a matching gray suit, his eyes soft. Hey yourself." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Is this the part where you tell me I can still run? Would you believe me if I did?" "Probably not." He smiled and offered his arm. "Come on, let's get you married." I took his arm because my legs weren't entirely steady, and having something to hold on to seemed smart. He led me through a maze of hallways to another set of doors. I could hear voices on the other side. Lots of voices. "How many people are in there?" I asked. "About 50. Just immediate family." "That's immediate?" "Italian Catholics. We breed like rabbits." He paused, his expression turning serious. "You okay? You smell different." That would be the scent cleansing. Apparently, I'm not allowed to smell like myself anymore. Something flickered in Luca's eyes. Anger, maybe. Dante insisted on that. I voted against it. "Outnumbered by your brothers?" "Story of my life." He squeezed my arm gently. "For what it's worth, I liked how you smelled before." "Honey and rain." It was. Nice. The compliment hit me unexpectedly hard. "Thanks." I managed. The doors opened. The room beyond was massive. Vaulted ceilings, stained glass windows, rows of chairs filled with people who all turned to look at me. At the front, standing beside what looked like an actual altar, were Dante and Marco. They were devastating in matching suits. Identical. Perfect. Terrifying. Dante's gray eyes found mine across the distance, and something in my chest pulled tight. The bond. Already reaching for them. Luca walked me down the aisle. Every eye in the room tracked our progress. I felt like an animal on display. When we reached the front, Luca placed my hand in Dante's. His skin was cool. His grip firm. "You look beautiful," Dante murmured. so quietly only I could hear. I looked up at him, searching for mockery. Found none. I look like you dressed me, I shot back. His lips curved. Exactly. An older man in religious robes stepped forward. Apparently we were doing this with an actual priest because the Mafia loved their traditions. The ceremony was a blur. Latin I didn't understand. Prayers I didn't hear. My entire focus narrowed to the three men standing with me. Dante on my right, Marco on my left, Luca behind me, his hand on my shoulder, surrounding me, claiming me. Do you, Ethan Michael Hayes, take these men as your lawfully wedded husbands? The priest's question cut through my haze. This was it. The last moment I could say no. The last chance to choose myself over everyone else. I looked at Dante, at his cold, calculating eyes that held something that might have been hope, at Marco, at his dangerous grin that softened when he looked at me, at Luca, whose gentle touch on my shoulder felt like an anchor in a storm. I do, I heard myself say. The words felt like stepping off a cliff. The priest turned to them. And do you, Dante, Marco, and Luca Vitale, take this man as your lawfully wedded husband? We do. Three voices, perfect unison. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you married. You may seal the bond. Wait, seal the what? Before I could process, Dante's hand cupped my jaw, tilting my face up. First mark, he said softly. Don't fight it. Then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was claiming, possessive. His tongue swept into my mouth, and his scent flooded my system so completely I forgot how to think. The bond roared to life between us. I felt it snap into place like a lock turning, something fundamental and irreversible clicking shut. When he pulled back, I was gasping. Marco turned me toward him immediately. My turn. His kiss was different, rougher, hungrier. He bit my lower lip, and I tasted copper. The sharp pain mixed with pleasure in a way that made my knees buckle. He held me up effortlessly, one arm banded around my waist. When he released me, Luca was there. Easy, he murmured, his hand gentle on my cheek. I've got you. His kiss was soft, sweet, a promise instead of a demand. But the bond still surged, adding his thread to the growing tangle connecting us. When he pulled back, I swayed. All three of them moved to steady me, their hands on my arms, my back, my waist. The room erupted in applause. I stood there, supported by my three new husbands, the bond humming beneath my skin like a live wire. Welcome to the family, someone called. The crowd surged forward. Congratulations. Handshakes, kisses on cheeks, from people I'd never met. I smiled, nodded, said thank you in all the right places. But inside I was screaming. Because the bond wasn't just humming anymore, it was burning. My skin felt too hot, too tight. Every brush of their hands sent electricity through my nervous system. Their scents were overwhelming, drowning out everything else. I needed air, space, something. Ethan? Luca's voice cut through the noise. You okay? Bathroom, I managed. I need the bathroom. Dante's hand tightened on my elbow. Marco, take him. Stay with him. Marco guided me through the crowd, down a hallway, into a bathroom that was bigger than my old bedroom. The door closed, muffling the noise. I gripped the sink, staring at my reflection. My eyes were too bright, my skin flushed. My lips were swollen from 3 different kisses. I looked wrecked. Easy there, husband. Marco leaned against the door. Breathe. I can't. The words came out panicked. I can't breathe. Your scents are everywhere. The bond is everywhere. I can't think. That's normal. First marking always hits hard. This isn't normal. I spun to face him. Nothing about this is normal. I'm married to 3 people I don't know, and my body is trying to combust, and I can smell you on my skin, and I hate it, but I also want more, and that's so messed up, and I just needed to stop. The words tumbled out in a rush, my control finally shattering. Marco pushed off the door and crossed to me in 2 strides. Look at me, he commanded. I looked up. The bond is new. It's overwhelming, but it will settle. His hands framed my face, forcing me to hold his gaze. You're not going to combust. You're not going to lose yourself. You're just adjusting to having 3 alphas bonded to your system. I didn't want this. I know. His thumbs brushed away tears I didn't realize were falling. But you have it anyway. So you can either fight it and make yourself miserable, or you can accept it and let us help. I don't want your help. Liar. He leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. Your scent is screaming for us. Honey and rain mixed with our scents. You want this. Your body knows what it needs, even if your mind is still catching up. He was right. I hated that he was right. I hate you, I whispered. I know. He kissed my forehead. Gentle. You can hate us and want us at the same time. The bond doesn't care about logic. A knock on the door. Marco? Dante's voice. Everything okay? Marco pulled back, his gray eyes searching mine. You good? I wasn't. Not even close. But I nodded anyway. He opened the door. Dante stood there, concern flickering across his usually impassive face. Behind him, Luca hovered, his expression openly worried. He's fine, Marco said. Just needed a minute. Dante's eyes found mine. We need to finish the reception. 1 hour. Then we can leave. Leave where? Home. Dante stepped into the bathroom, crowding the space with alpha pheromones. Where we complete the bond properly. The bonding night, right. Because today hadn't been traumatic enough. Can't wait, I said, my voice dripping sarcasm. Dante's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. No, you can't. He was right. The bond was already pulling me toward them, demanding completion. And tonight, I'd have to give in, whether I wanted to or not. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to cool the heat burning under my skin. It didn't help. Nothing was going to help except the one thing I wasn't ready to give. Come on, Luca said gently, offering his hand. 1 hour. You can survive 1 hour. I took his hand because the alternative was collapsing on the bathroom floor, and I had some dignity left. Not much, but some. We walked back into the reception together, Luca on one side, Marco on the other, Dante trailing behind like a dark shadow. The room had transformed while I was gone. Tables laden with food, a string quartet in the corner, people laughing, drinking, celebrating a union I was still trying to process. An older woman with sharp eyes and expensive jewelry descended on us immediately. So this is the boy who finally tamed the Vitale triplets. Her accent was thick, her smile predatory. Let me look at you. She grabbed my face with surprising strength, turning my head side to side like I was livestock at auction. Good bone structure, strong jaw. You'll give them beautiful children. I choked on air. I'm sorry, what? Aunt Carmela, Dante said, his voice holding a warning. That's enough. What? I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. She released my face and patted my cheek hard enough to sting. Welcome to the family, boy. Try not to disappoint us. She swept away, leaving me standing there with my mouth hanging open. Did she just say children? I hissed at Luca. Ignore her. She says that to everyone. Everyone who enters a forced marriage with 3 Mafia bosses. Everyone who marries into the family, period. Luca steered me toward a quieter corner. She's traditional. Thinks the only point of marriage is heirs and alliances. I'm a man. I can't have children. Basic biology. Marco appeared with a glass of champagne, pressing it into my hand. Drink. It'll help. Will it magically make this situation less insane? No. But you'll care less about the insanity. Fair point. I drank. The champagne was expensive, probably cost more than my textbooks. It fizzed on my tongue and did absolutely nothing to calm the inferno raging inside me. The bond pulsed with every heartbeat. I could feel all 3 of them now, even when they weren't touching me. Dante's cold control, Marco's barely leashed violence, Luca's gentle steadiness. It was invasive and intimate, and I hated how much I didn't hate it. An announcement rang through the room. Time for the first dance. You have got to be kidding me, I muttered. Tradition, Dante said, materializing at my elbow. The family expects it. The family expects a lot of things that are deeply unreasonable. Welcome to being a Vitale. He held out his hand. Dance with me. It wasn't a request. I set down my champagne and took his hand because fighting in front of 50 judgmental Italians seemed like a bad idea. He led me to the center of the room. The quartet started playing something slow and romantic and completely at odds with the reality of our situation. Dante's hand settled on my waist, the other clasped mine. We were too close. His scent wrapped around me like smoke. You're shaking, he observed. I'm terrified. There's a difference. Of me? Of all of this. I met his cold gray eyes. Of the bond. Of what happens after we leave here. Of losing myself completely. Something shifted in his expression. Almost like concern. You won't lose yourself, he said quietly, guiding me through the steps. The bond doesn't erase who you are, it just adds to it. That's a pretty way of saying you're rewiring my brain chemistry without my consent. You consented when you signed the contract. I consented to marriage, not to whatever the hell is happening to my body right now. His hand tightened on my waist. The bond is permanent, Ethan. Fighting it only makes it worse. I've seen what happens when someone resists too hard. The beta. The one who tried to die rather than complete the bond. Is that a threat? I asked, my voice sharper than intended. It's a warning. Dante pulled me closer, until our chests were nearly touching. I don't want you to suffer. Despite what you think of me, I'm not a monster who enjoys causing pain. Just a monster who forces people into marriages and controls their biology. Yes, his honesty was brutal. I am exactly that. But I'm also your husband now, and whether you believe it or not, that means something to me. The music swelled. He spun me, and I stumbled slightly. He caught me effortlessly, his strength casual and absolute. I studied you for 6 months, Dante continued, his voice low enough that only I could hear. Learned your patterns, your favorite coffee shop, the route you take to campus, the way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I know you, Ethan. Better than you think. That's still stalking. I needed to be sure. After what happened with Marcus, I couldn't make another mistake. His gray eyes bored into mine. You're not a mistake. You're exactly what we need. I'm not here to fix your emotional damage. I know. You're here because I forced you. He said it so matter-of-factly it stole my breath. But maybe we can fix each other anyway. The song ended. Polite applause rippled through the room. Dante released me and stepped back. Marco's turn. Before I could protest, Marco swept in, his grin wicked. Miss me, husband? We've been in the same room for the last 10 minutes. 10 minutes too long. He pulled me against him, his grip possessive. I don't like sharing you with a room full of people who keep looking at you like you're dessert. I think they're just curious about the fresh meat. They better keep their curiosity to themselves. His voice dropped to a growl. You're ours. They don't get to touch. The possessiveness should have annoyed me. Instead, it sent a spike of heat straight through my core. Damn biology. You know this whole alpha possessive thing is very Neanderthal, right? I said, trying to maintain some semblance of control. Good thing I look great in a loincloth. Marco spun me, his movements more energetic than Dante's controlled precision. How you holding up? Still want to murder us? Little bit. That's fair. We did kind of ruin your life. The casual acknowledgement surprised me. At least you're honest about it. I'm honest about everything. It's my best and worst quality. He dipped me dramatically, making several relatives gasp. I also think you're going to be incredible once you stop fighting the bond and let yourself feel what you're actually feeling. And what am I actually feeling? He pulled me back up, his face inches from mine. Turned on, terrified, angry, curious, all at the same time. He was right. I hated that he was right. The bond is amplifying everything, Marco continued. Every emotion, every sensation. By tonight, you're going to be crawling out of your skin with need. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be comforting. It's supposed to be honest. His gray eyes searched mine. We're not going to hurt you, Ethan, but we are going to make you feel things you've never felt before, and you're going to like it. Cocky much? Confident. There's a difference. The song ended. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Luca's turn. Don't break his heart. He's sensitive. He released me, and Luca immediately stepped in, his touch infinitely gentler than his brother's. Hi, he said softly. Hi yourself. My voice was embarrassingly breathless. You're doing great, Luca said, swaying with me to the new song. I know this is overwhelming. That's an understatement. Want me to get you out of here early? I can fake a family emergency. The offer was so genuine, it made my chest ache. Wouldn't that just piss off Dante? Probably. But you're more important than tradition. I looked up at him. At his quiet gray eyes that held none of Dante's coldness or Marco's wildness. Just steady, genuine care. Why are you being so nice to me? I asked. Because someone should be. His hand moved to the small of my back, supporting me as we moved. My brothers are intense. They come on strong because that's all they know. But I remember what it's like to feel powerless, to have choices taken away. Your father? Yeah. His jaw tightened. He believed in breaking people down to rebuild them. Dante learned that lesson too well. Marco turned it into armor. I just remember what it felt like to be on the receiving end. Is that why you voted against the scent cleansing? I voted against a lot of things in this arrangement. His voice was quiet, sad, but I was outvoted. Story of my life. You could have said no, refused to be part of this, and leave you alone with just Dante and Marco? That's not protection, that's abandonment. He pulled me closer, his vanilla scent wrapping around me. I'd rather be here trying to make this bearable than leave you to suffer alone. Something cracked in my chest. Some wall I'd been carefully maintaining. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. We haven't gotten to the hard part. The bonding night. Right. Because that was still looming like an executioner's blade. The song ended. Luca released me reluctantly. Time's up, Dante announced, appearing like a summons. The car's ready. My heart jumped into my throat. This was it. No more delays, no more crowds to hide in. Just me and three alphas whose bond was currently trying to set my nervous system on fire. We said our goodbyes. More cheek kisses, more congratulations, more pointed comments about heirs and duty and tradition. Then we were outside, climbing into the black car, the four of us in the back seat like we were headed to a funeral. Mine, probably. The driver pulled away from the estate. The silence in the car was suffocating. I could feel all three of them. Their presence, their sense, the bond pulling tighter with every passing second. My skin was too hot, my clothes too restrictive. Everything felt heightened, sensitized, like my body was preparing for something my mind wasn't ready to accept. Ethan, Dante's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts. I looked at him. When we get home, you have a choice, he said. We can complete the bond tonight, as tradition dictates, or we can wait, give you time to adjust. I blinked. What? You heard me, this is your choice. Since when do I get choices? Since now. His gray eyes were serious. I won't force this. Not the bond completion. You're already marked, already legally bound. But the physical aspect, that's yours to decide. I looked at Marco. At Luca. You all agree with this? It's not about what we want, Luca said gently. It's about what you're ready for. But the bond, I gestured helplessly. It's burning. You said it would get worse if I resist. It will, Dante confirmed. The pull will intensify, the need will grow, but that doesn't mean we force you before you're ready. Marco leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Here's the thing, husband. The bond completion will help. It'll ease the burning, settle the connection, but it requires trust. And you don't trust us yet. I barely know you. Exactly. He grinned, though it didn't reach his eyes. So we wait. Let you get to know us. Let the bond settle at its own pace, and when you're ready, when you actually want this instead of just accepting the inevitable, then we complete it. I stared at all three of them. They were giving me a choice, actual agency in a situation where I'd had none. It felt like a trap. What's the catch? I asked suspiciously. No catch, Dante said. Just a condition. There it was. What condition? You sleep in our bed tonight. Not for the bond completion, just to help ease the worst of the pull. His voice was calm, reasonable. The bond needs proximity, physical closeness. We can provide that without demanding more than you're willing to give. You want me to sleep with you? Literally. Yes. I thought about the alternative, spending the night alone, burning with need, fighting a bond that was already rewriting my biology, or accepting their offer, letting them close, taking whatever comfort proximity could provide. Neither option was good, but one was survivable. Fine, I said, the word costing me everything. But no touching, no, anything. Just sleep. Agreed, Dante said immediately. Marco and Luca nodded. The car pulled up to the Beacon Hill brownstone. Home, if I could call it that. We climbed out, and Dante led us inside. Through the museum-perfect living room, up the stairs, to the third floor. But instead of stopping at my room, he kept walking. To the end of the hall, to a door I hadn't noticed before. He opened it. The master bedroom was massive. King-size bed that could fit 5 people. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Minimalist furniture in shades of gray and black. It smelled like all three of them. Concentrated, overwhelming. Get comfortable, Dante said, already shrugging off his suit jacket. We have all night. I stood there, frozen, watching as all three of them began undressing with casual ease. This was happening. I was about to spend the night in bed with three alpha husbands. And somehow, I'd agreed to it. Don't just stand there looking terrified, Marco said, pulling his shirt over his head. We don't bite. Well, not without permission. That's not reassuring. It wasn't meant to be reassuring. It was meant to be honest. He tossed his shirt onto a chair and stretched, every muscle moving under his skin like he was deliberately showing off. Which he probably was. Dante was already down to his undershirt and dress pants, folding his clothes with meticulous precision. Because of course he folded his clothes, even in a situation like this. Luca caught my eye and gestured to a door on the left. Bathroom's there. There's clothes for you. Comfortable ones. Not. He waved at my wedding suit. This. I escaped to the bathroom like it was a lifeboat. The bathroom was, predictably, massive and expensive. Marble everywhere, a shower that could fit a football team, and on the counter, a set of soft gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt. I changed quickly, grateful to get out of the suit that smelled so heavily of their family oils. The comfortable clothes were a relief, even though they also smelled like cedar and leather and vanilla, because apparently there was no escape from their scent anywhere in this house. I stared at myself in the mirror. My hair was mussed from running my hands through it. My eyes were too bright. My lips still slightly swollen from 3 different kisses that had sealed my fate. I looked like someone on the edge of falling apart. You can do this, I told my reflection. It's just sleeping. People sleep near other people all the time. This is fine. Totally normal. Absolutely not terrifying. My reflection didn't look convinced. A soft knock on the door. Ethan? Luca's voice. You okay in there? Peachy. Just having an existential crisis. The usual. Can I come in? I opened the door. Luca stood there in soft gray sweatpants and nothing else. His chest was lean and defined, and I immediately looked away before my brain could fully process what I was seeing. You don't have to do this, he said gently. If you want to sleep in your own room, we'll understand. And spend the night feeling like my skin is on fire while the bond tries to drag me here anyway? Fair point. He held out his hand. Come on. It's less scary once you're actually in the bed. That is a lie and we both know it. But I took his hand anyway. He led me back into the bedroom. Marco was already sprawled on the left side of the massive bed, looking completely at ease. Dante sat on the right, reading something on his phone, his expression unreadable. They'd left the middle open. For me, I feel like a sacrifice being offered to a volcano, I muttered. Marco snorted. If we're a volcano, you're the lava. Hot, unpredictable, and capable of destroying everything in your path. That's the weirdest compliment I've ever received. I'm a weird guy. He patted the space between him and Dante. Come on, the bed doesn't bite either. I climbed onto the bed with all the enthusiasm of someone approaching the gallows. The mattress was soft, too soft, expensive. I settled in the middle, carefully not touching either of them, which lasted about 30 seconds. Dante set down his phone and shifted closer. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his skin. Relax, he murmured. You're so tense you're going to give yourself a headache. I'm in bed with 3 men I married this afternoon. Relaxation isn't really on the table. Then let us help. His hand moved to my shoulder, applying gentle pressure. The touch sent electricity through my system. The bond surged, recognizing its match, demanding more. I gasped. Easy, Luca said from my other side, his hand settling on my arm. Breathe through it. The bond is adjusting to proximity. It feels like I'm being electrocuted. It'll settle, Marco promised, his fingers trailing down my spine in soothing circles. Your body is just recognizing that we're here, that you're safe. Safe. Right. I was in bed with 3 Mafia bosses who'd forced me into marriage and were currently rewiring my biology. Super safe. But the gentle touches continued. Dante's hand on my shoulder, Luca's on my arm, Marco's on my back. Not demanding, not possessive, just comforting. And slowly, impossibly, my body began to relax. The burning eased to a warm hum. The panic faded to exhaustion. The bond settled into something that felt less like a violation and more like a connection. That's it, Luca murmured. Just let it happen. My eyes were getting heavy. The combined scent of all three of them was intoxicating, pulling me under like a warm tide. I still hate you, I mumbled, already half asleep. We know, Marco said, pressing a kiss to the back of my neck. You can hate us in the morning too. Gonna hold you to that. Dante's arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. Luca shifted closer on my other side, his warmth enveloping me. I was surrounded, trapped, and somehow, I'd never felt safer in my life. I slept. For the first time in days, I actually slept. Deep and dreamless, cocooned in warmth and scent, and the steady breathing of three alphas, whose bond hummed contentedly beneath my skin. When I woke, sunlight was streaming through the windows. I was still in the middle of the bed, still surrounded, but something had changed. Dante was awake, propped on one elbow, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Morning, he said softly. Is it though? I mumbled, my voice rough with sleep, his lips curved, almost a smile. How do you feel? I did a mental inventory. The burning was gone. The panic had faded. The bond felt settled, comfortable even. Less like I'm dying, I admitted. Progress. His hand moved to brush hair from my forehead. The touch was gentle. Careful. Thank you. For what? For trusting us enough to sleep here. I know it wasn't easy. I didn't have much choice. You had every choice. His gray eyes were serious. You could have locked yourself in your room, suffered alone out of pride, but you didn't. You let us help. Don't get used to it. I'm still planning to be difficult. I'm counting on it. He leaned down and pressed a kiss to my forehead. Soft, sweet, nothing like the claiming kiss from yesterday. This felt like a promise. Marco stirred on my other side, mumbling something incoherent and pulling me closer. 5 more minutes, he grumbled into my hair. It's 10 a.m., Dante said. Don't care. Husband is warm. Despite everything, I smiled. Luca emerged from the bathroom, already dressed in jeans and a soft sweater. He looked domestic, normal. Morning, he said, his eyes crinkling with warmth. I made coffee and breakfast because someone has to feed you before you get cranky. I'm already cranky, then crankier. He held out his hand. Come on, let's get some food in you before Dante starts his lecture about proper nutrition. I extracted myself from Marco's octopus grip in Dante's careful hold, following Luca downstairs. The kitchen smelled like bacon and coffee and something sweet. Pancakes, maybe. Luca had set the table for 4. Real plates, real food. Not some catered expensive thing, but actual home-cooked breakfast. You made all this? I asked, settling into a chair. Cooking relaxes me. He poured coffee into a mug and slid it across to me. Plus, I figured you'd need comfort food after yesterday. I took a sip. It was perfect. Exactly the right amount of cream and sugar without me having to ask. How did you know how I take my coffee? I pay attention. He plated pancakes and bacon, setting them in front of me. You always order the same thing at that cafe in Cambridge. Large coffee, 2 creams, 1 sugar, blueberry muffin on Tuesdays. The casual surveillance should have creeped me out. Instead, it felt oddly touching that he'd cared enough to notice. Dante and Marco joined us, both looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen them. Marco stole a piece of bacon off my plate. Dante poured himself black coffee and didn't even lecture me about nutrition. It felt normal, like a real family having breakfast together. So, I said, breaking the comfortable silence. What happens now? Now, Dante said, you finish your semester at BU. We give you space to adjust to the bond. And we figure out how to actually be married instead of just legally bound. That's surprisingly reasonable. I can be reasonable when properly motivated. And what's your motivation? His gray eyes met mine. Not destroying the one good thing we've managed to build in a very long time. The honesty hit me square in the chest. Marco leaned back in his chair, balancing on 2 legs. Plus, watching you verbally eviscerate Aunt Carmela yesterday was the highlight of my year. I want to keep you around just for the entertainment value. I didn't eviscerate her. I just politely suggested she mind her own business. You told her that your reproductive system was none of her concern, and if she brought it up again, you'd donate to Planned Parenthood in her name. She deserved it. She absolutely did. Marco's grin was genuine, warm. You're perfect. The compliment made my cheeks flush. Luca reached across the table, his hand covering mine. We know this isn't what you chose. We know we forced you into something you never wanted. But we're trying to make this bearable, maybe even good. Good is a stretch, then tolerable, survivable. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. We're not expecting you to love us, just give us a chance to earn your trust. I looked at all three of them. At Dante's careful control, hiding genuine care. At Marco's wild energy, tempered with unexpected gentleness. At Luca's quiet strength that had been my anchor through everything. They were criminals. Dangerous. Possessive. But they were also trying. Okay, I heard myself say. I'll give you a chance, but I have conditions. Dante's eyebrow rose. More conditions? Always more conditions. That's how this works. I pulled my hand from Luca's, needing the distance to think clearly. 1. I finished my degree. No interference. No Mafia business interrupting my finals. Agreed. 2. Bailey can visit whenever he wants. He's my family. I'm not losing him. Agreed, Luca said immediately. 3. If I say I need space, you give it to me. No tracking me down. No possessive alpha nonsense. Marco opened his mouth. Dante shot him a look. Within reason, Dante qualified. If you're in danger, all bets are off. Fair enough. I took a breath. And 4. You be honest with me. About everything. The business, the family, what you're actually feeling instead of hiding behind this untouchable alpha mask. If we're doing this, we do it for real. Silence. Then Dante stood, walked around the table, and crouched in front of my chair so we were eye level. I can do that, he said quietly. If you can do the same, no more pretending you don't feel the bond. No more hiding behind sarcasm and deflection. That's literally my entire personality. Then keep 90% of it and give me 10% truth. That's all I'm asking. I searched his eyes. Found genuine vulnerability there, carefully hidden but present. Deal, I whispered. He smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face from cold and untouchable to almost human. Good. He stood, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. Finish your breakfast, then I'll show you the rest of the house, including the library. I think you'll like it. A library? Of course they had a library. Despite everything, I felt a flutter of excitement. The next few weeks unfolded like a strange, surreal dream. I went back to classes, finished my finals. Aced them all because spite was an excellent motivator. Bailey visited every weekend, bringing normal college chaos into the pristine brownstone. The triplets tolerated him with surprising grace. Marco even taught him poker, which Bailey lost spectacularly. The bond settled into something manageable, comfortable even. I could feel them, always. But it was less like being invaded and more like being connected, supported. Dante taught me about the business. Not the violent parts, but the strategy. The empire building. I had opinions. He listened to them. Sometimes he even took my advice. Marco took me to his private shooting range and taught me how to handle a gun. Just in case, he said. In case of what, he didn't specify. But I appreciated the skill anyway. Luca and I fell into an easy routine of late-night talks in the kitchen. He told me about their childhood. I told him about mine. We traded damage like currency, building trust one secret at a time. And slowly, impossibly, the prison started feeling like a home. 3 months after the wedding, I woke up in their bed, our bed, and realized I'd stopped counting the days until I could escape. Because I didn't want to escape anymore. Dante was already awake, reading reports on his tablet. Marco was snoring softly, one arm thrown over my waist. Luca had his nose buried in my hair, his breathing steady and peaceful. I was trapped, and I was happy. The realization should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like freedom. You're smiling, Dante observed, setting down his tablet. Maybe I have gas. You're a terrible liar. He shifted closer, his hand cupping my cheek. What are you thinking? Honesty. I'd promised him honesty. I'm thinking that I don't hate this anymore, I admitted quietly. I don't hate you. Any of you. And that's terrifying because I was supposed to. You were supposed to survive. You're doing better than that. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. You're thriving. Don't let it go to your head. Too late. He leaned in, his lips brushing against mine. Soft, sweet. A question instead of a demand. I kissed him back. Not because the bond demanded it. Not because I had to. because I wanted to. When we broke apart, Marco was awake, grinning like he'd won the lottery. Finally, he crowed. I knew you'd come around. Shut up and go back to sleep. Can't. Too busy being right. He pulled me against his chest, pressing kisses to my shoulder. You love us. Admit it. I tolerate you. There's a difference. That's basically love and Ethan speak. Luca stirred, his arms tightening around my waist. Too loud, he mumbled. Sleep now. Gloat later. I settled back into their combined warmth, surrounded by three alphas who'd forced their way into my life and somehow become my entire world. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Bailey. Bailey, how's married life? I looked at the three men tangled around me. At the life I'd built from the ashes of the one I'd lost. Me. Surprisingly, not terrible. Almost good, actually. Bailey. Finally. I was starting to worry you'd never admit it. Me. Don't tell anyone. I have a reputation to maintain. Bailey. Your secret's safe with me. Love you, drama queen. Me. Love you too. I set down the phone and closed my eyes, letting myself drift in the warmth and safety of the bond that had once felt like a chain and now felt like home. Ethan? Dante's voice was soft. Careful. Yeah? Thank you for giving us a chance. For not giving up. Thank you for not breaking me when you could have. I would never. You're too important. Marco pressed closer. You're stuck with us now, you know. No returns, no exchanges. I'm aware. Good. Luca's lips brushed my neck. Because we're keeping you forever. Forever. The word should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like a promise. Like hope. Like the beginning of something that might actually be worth fighting for. Forever sounds okay, I whispered. Just okay? Marco teased. Don't push your luck. They laughed. And the sound warm and genuine, and so achingly normal. It made my chest tight. I'd come here broken. Forced. Terrified. But somehow, in this house full of dangerous men and impossible bonds, I'd found something I'd been missing my whole life. A family. Not the one I was born into. Not the one I'd chosen. But the one that had chosen me, and maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. The morning sun streamed through the windows, bathing us all in golden light. And for the first time since signing that contract, I smiled. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Months later, I stood in the doorway of Dante's office, watching him work. He was bent over his desk, dark hair falling into his eyes, completely absorbed in whatever strategy he was plotting. He looked up, sensing me. His expression softened immediately. Come here, he said, holding out his hand. I crossed the room and let him pull me into his lap. It had become our routine, me interrupting his work, him pretending to be annoyed while pulling me close. I got my acceptance letter, I said. His body tensed. And? Full ride to the graduate program. They want me to start in the fall. Pride blazed in his gray eyes. Of course they do. You're brilliant. You're biased. I'm factual. He kissed me, slow and thorough. My husband, the soon-to-be master's student, the family is going to lose their minds. In a good way, Aunt Carmela is going to demand to know when you're giving her great-grandchildren, but otherwise, yes, good way. I laughed, the sound easy and unguarded. Marco appeared in the doorway, Luca behind him. Family meeting in our bedroom? Marco suggested, his grin wicked. I think this calls for a celebration. Everything calls for a celebration with you, I pointed out. And? I'm a man who enjoys life. Sue me. Luca rolled his eyes fondly. Come on. I made your favorite dessert. You made tiramisu? I made tiramisu. I extracted myself from Dante's lap, already heading for the door. Last one upstairs has to do dishes for a week. I took off running, their laughter chasing me up the stairs. This life. This chaotic, strange, wonderful life with three alphas who'd forced their way into my heart and refused to leave. It wasn't what I'd planned. It was better. And I wouldn't change a single thing. The end. In the end, love isn't about how you start. It's about choosing to stay, even when staying is the hardest choice of all. And sometimes, the family you need is the one you never saw coming. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out.